Hi guys, and welcome back to another of our coffee chats with myself and Lee. And we're back. It's 2 o'clock on Tuesday. So welcome once again, Lee. How are you?
Not too bad, thank you. I am once again minus the coffee. So
In fairness, do you know what? I've drank so much coffee today. There's no way I can have another cup. Although after this, I'm sure I'll be like, oh, we're just going upstairs for it. No, so I don't have one today. But what were we talking about just then? So yeah, this we want to talk today about something that me and Lee have had a little chat about here and there, and had a little bit of a giggle in some ways, to some degree, because there's this sort of, I guess, how do we phrase this? In our industry, there are a lot of bookkeepers and accountants and financial service providers, etc., who are really positive and embrace change and are looking forward to what AI can do going forward. And they're all about, again, embracing sort of I'm trying to think what the word is. Sort of moving with technology, I guess is the word, and being pragmatic about things and not sort of looking at things this other way, which we're going to talk about, which is where we've got a few bookkeepers and accounts in the industry who are less than enthusiastic, shall we say, about embracing change. What do you think, Lee?
so I mean, I think it follows on really from a series of articles you've done with Accounting Web.
Yes.
And I was reading some of the comments on those articles, and I just think it's really interesting. My experience of accountants and of bookkeepers is very much that there's, like you said, there's two sorts. There's people that are really enthusiastic, really positive, really ready to embrace change, embrace challenge, and then there are people that feel like, whether they feel this way on the inside, but certainly outside, they come across as though they're dragging their feet. They're not very happy with any change. They're just happy with the way things work. They like a good moan. They're just quite negative. And I just thought it was really interesting because to hear you talk about AML, which is quite a dry subject and quite one that you can very easily just lean into the moaning on. It's like,
Yeah.
well, your attitude and approach to things like that, to compliance challenges or to technology, can really sort of drive how proactive your business is going to be towards it. And if you've got a real positive attitude to it, it feels like, well, you're going to be the one that's doing it right, that's getting it, that's further along than the person that's really negative and wants to drag their feet on change and just wants to have a good moan rather than actually get out there and work with what they need to do and get on with things. And I just
Yeah.
thought I didn't know whether you'd seen the same thing because you interact with a lot of accountants and bookkeepers.
So, right, at my very core, at my very, very, very core, there's a few things that I genuinely believe in. And one of those is that if you approach something with a negative attitude, it's going to take you longer and you're going to have more resistance to it, to whatever it is, whether it's going to the gym, which I need to get back to, or if it's I'm changing my diet, or if it's a new process or a new piece of training that you've got to do, or a CPD element that you've got to keep on track of like every year. If you approach that with the attitude of, oh my God, I have to do this thing and don't want to do it, and the sort of the attitude of the world's against me, why me sort of attitude, it in all circumstances and experiences that I've ever had throughout my working career and at college and training and in previous careers before accounting, things get done a lot slower, and the resistance to change is just it's almost like, how do I describe it? I don't know, like a bug. So if you have, and do you know what? Actually, I listened to a podcast. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. Is it Melanie Griffiths? Have you heard of her?
No.
She's an American. She's got a podcast online, and she brings in doctors, and not just doctors, like specialists in certain fields. And there was a lady on there who owns like a multi-million-pound, maybe even £1 billion company. And she said if there's negative people in her team, what she learned circa 40 years ago was that she needed to get rid of those individuals immediately, because that negative attitude is almost copied and pasted by other staff members. It's almost like a horrible sort of, yeah, again, a bug that just spreads. If one person's negative, guarantee someone else becomes negative as a result.
Oh, yeah. I think it's easier, isn't it? It's easier to be negative. It's
Yeah.
easy to kind of see the downside in things. And like, if somebody else is doing it, kind of gives you permission to then also just be negative and choose that kind of easier path rather than trying to see, because it can often be very hard, particularly, like I said, sometimes like big challenges like AML compliance, which feel a bit abstract or a bit stupid or a bit of a burden. It can be hard to then see the positives within that and to try and see how that can actually have a positive impact on yourself and your business and your clients. It's far easier to just say, oh, wow, why do we have to do this? Oh, it's pointless. This is stupid. It's never going to stop any criminals or anything like that. And that attitude, like you said, it spreads because then somebody else thinks, wow, yeah, you're right. Why are we doing this? It's too much. And it's just, it's contagious.
But then I don't know, I feel old. I feel a lot older than I am. I feel as if I am an old lady in a younger person's body, and I'm not that young either. Because my attitude to anything is, if you've got nothing nice to say, firstly, don't say it. That's how I was brought up. Secondly, that, if you've got the time, that I think it was on a Friends episode, if you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean.
Yes.
It's that, I can't fully remember that. Yeah, but it's no, that was Big Bang Theory. So it's that attitude. If you've got time to complain, you've got time to do the job. So it's like, why would you put your energy into that when you can just start the process and get whatever it is, get a few steps over the line and get that started, essentially. Because I think there's always going to be things in our industry that you don't particularly like and you don't want to do, but if you want to be a part of a membership, and have that professional accreditation, then you've got to get on board. And instead of, again, thinking, oh, this is such a negative thing, I don't want to do it, why don't you make it positive and see how you can use that to create change or support clients better, or get more knowledge or more data out of your firm to give a better service, for example. So I don't understand that attitude. I don't get it.
I mean, I sort of think like, because I think I'm naturally quite a negative person. I tend to be quite pessimistic. I tend to look on the West, tend to think about the West quite a bit. But I, like you, I find, like, if you make that effort to try and think, and it is an effort for me, and I'm sure it's an effort for many people, to look at something in a positive way and to try and drag yourself away from that negativity, you can often get, like you said, much more done. And it's the effort you put in is disproportionate. You get far more out of looking at something positive.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just thinking, have you ever, when you've got a cold and you're on the brink of, I'm about to get a cold, but I don't quite have a cold yet, and you feel it coming on. Like, I get bad sinuses, so I'm like, yeah, I can feel this. If I tell myself I don't feel very well, I guarantee you I will not be well. Guaranteed every time. Whereas if I'm like, everything's okay over here, don't worry about it, I don't get ill. It's the weirdest thing.
It's that mind over matter thing, isn't it? It's the because I'm the same. If I'm ill and I've got something to do, and I know I've got lots of things to do, and I've got to crack on with it, I don't feel the symptoms as much. Whereas if I'm just sort of like, I've got a bit of a dull day ahead, it's emails and a report writing or whatever, and I feel a bit ill, although that's when I can really kind of sink into the wallowing of, oh no, I can't breathe and my throat's hurting and my head hurts, and I'm just going to sit in bed. And
do you know something I used to do, and I still do this now. So on a Friday, I essentially shut the business down and I work on the business. So it's like looking at things we can do better, or implementing processes, or whatever it is. Like, tons of things that we look at. if I didn't do that, and I now do this on a Thursday instead of a Friday, I used to, when I worked in practice in particular, I would make Friday my easy day. So purposefully, I'd get all of the hard jobs done Monday to Wednesday. And Thursday was a little bit more relaxed, but Friday was like, instead of a Friday afternoon job, it was all day doing the easy stuff. So I could have a better day. And yeah, I still do that now. So Monday, Tuesdays, I force myself to do the things that are my least favorite, and that works for me because by Wednesday, Thursday, I'm pretty useless, to be honest. So I'd be interested to know, yeah, if other practitioners work in that way, where they have more of a, like an upfront workload, and then an easier sort of midweek to end of week, or if it's just full on all the time. Yeah, yeah. Do you work like that, Lee, or do you have a process like that?
I don't know. I tend to try and be flat out. Or then I need a break. I don't know. I often kind of feel a bit of a pickup towards the end of the week. Actually, we work a 4-day week, so our ends are Thursday. But I often get the Monday paralysis, where you kind of like you're faced with everything you've got to do the week ahead. And like I said, like I can very much empathise with people that go into that negative thought process, because I'm like, oh, this could go wrong, that could go wrong. Need to get that done. So I tend to get that bit, but I'm like, oh, try and power through and think positive and try and get cracking. But by the end of the week, once I'm in my swing of things and I've started getting things ticked off, that tends to be when I've got a bit more momentum.
Do you know that when I worked in practice, one thing I used to do always was, I don't really do it anymore because I've got like voice notes and things I leave for myself. But if you could hear my voice notes, you'd be like, what on earth are you talking about? They only make sense to me. But I used to add a little sticky note onto my desktop. That was like a little virtual sticky note. And it would tell me what I needed to do in the first half an hour of the next day, so that I didn't have that paralysis of sitting at my desk and going, what am I actually doing? And I always found that really helped. So I started doing that on, again, back then, on a Friday, to almost set myself, right, these are the things you've got to do on Monday. And it would be the first hour on a Monday. So I didn't get that, oh, I'm not sure, how's today going to go? Like, I didn't give myself the time to think about it. And I carry that through into the practice now. And every night I write on an Excel or a Word document, to-do list tomorrow. And it's like 3 or 4 things just to get started. And then I can look at the diary and everything else and try and forward plan. Although I'm not very good at my managing my diary, but that's because I've got 8 different diaries that I've tried to implement into one, and it never works. So my last resort now is ordering a manual paper diary that I'm gonna just write everything into.
So I went back to the old paper diary. I was very adamant for years that I was going to keep using Outlook.
Yeah.
And I really tried, and it just never worked. At the beginning of the year, I'd be really on it, like everything scheduled in, and then sort of come March, April time, I'd have just fell out of it.
Yeah.
Whereas with the paper one, I find that far easier. It's something to it's a physical artifact, isn't it, to kind of refer to.
Yeah, definitely.
It is separate from the computer and everything, which I quite like, because so much of it.
Just a thought. So to give you context here, my diaries include Gmail, Outlook, Hey, One Stop, and a couple of other really random, like, I can't think what they're called, but cloud-based emails that are not like the usual standard. And then I get invites from clients outside of that, and Calendly and Zoom. So managing all that is crazy. But I wonder sometimes, that negative outlook towards doing things or to getting started, or like say, we had a bit of a chuckle with some of the comments on the webinar. I wonder sometimes, is some of that, I guess, in some way linked to not managing the diary properly? Because if you had that nailed down, and you said to yourself, like, just keep going back to AML as an example, that every Friday or every Wednesday for an hour, you reviewed your AML processes or made sure they were up to date, or made sure that you were up to date with the latest CPD on a certain topic, surely you wouldn't feel as negative towards those things.
No. And like you said, I mean, I wonder whether it comes down to being more self-reflective and that energy in, because like you said, like planning your diary and planning your day ahead and scheduling time to like look at a process that isn't something you really want to look at. It's kind of a bit of a chore. Like that requires a certain level of like willingness to go, right, I'm gonna trudge through not just the process, but also my feelings towards the process and have to deal with it as well. And like keep coming back to AML, because I think that's like a big one, a sore spot for a lot of accountants. Is like you've got to look at it and you're thinking, I don't like this, I don't see the point of it, and and it's like that attitude. You have to confront that if you're going to look at your processes and your systems. And that is quite a big ask really for people to do, I think, sometimes. But you're right, like you've got to start that off with like the scheduling of it. Think about it for this day, this morning. I'm going to look at my AML and what I've got in place, and also be prepared mentally to be like, I'm going to challenge myself when I'm feeling negative towards AML, or whatever it is, whatever you're kind of looking at, whatever process you're looking at.
I think I've said this to you before today, but it's taken me literally all this time, 30 plus years. I won't give you my exact age. I'm not a young Bobby Dazzler anymore, Lee.
You keep saying this, but I am also in my 30s, and I don't feel that 30 is that old. I think you're only a year older than me anyway. I don't think.
Yeah, I think so. But
every time you drag your age down, you're also dragging my age down.
Oh, sorry.
I found a great. Well, my wife found a grey hair in my head the other day, so
I've got plenty, Lee. Don't worry. I've got plenty. But, do you know what? They're a badge of honor at this point. Yeah. What was the thing then? That it's taken me all this time to realize that I am actually terrible at multitasking. And it used to be, when I worked in practice, it was a badge of honor, literally a badge of honor, to be able to multitask and have all these different clients going and things in the air and plates spinning. And then I do a lot of reading, and I try and absorb that, and I try and self-reflect like all the time. I'm constantly self-reflecting, always thinking I can be better at whatever, not the finished product right here. Like, there's always things that can be done. And I just remember thinking one day, oh my God, I can't multitask. I actually can't. And my entire career was, again, balancing and managing clients and being a client manager, and then being a practice owner and balancing the clients. And the way that I've got around that now is I actually have to block time and say, these days are for calls, these days are for work where I can't be disturbed, because I have to focus on one thing at a time. And if you could sit there with me as I'm working every day, you'll see the times I have to stop myself from going, well, I've got an email in from I'll just check Zero. And it's like, stop. No, finish what you're doing, and then you can go and do whatever it is. But I think sometimes that most bookkeepers and accountants are guilty of trying to multitask too many things. And because of that, I don't think you have the headspace to embrace, technology or whatever it is, because you're just so busy with all these other things on your mind that you've not allowed yourself to have that sort of headspace. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I mean, I get drawn into that quite a lot with the multitasking, where now I've got about 5 different Word documents open, 8 tabs on my browser, and they're all different things. There's a bit of HR, there's some management accounts, I've got something to do with qualification development up, and I'm like clicking between things throughout the day, and it's just like you said, like the most productive days I actually have are where I'm able to go, no, this is my job for the day, I'm focusing on this particular area today, and that's what I'm doing. and I don't get distracted by things. But it's very, very difficult, I feel, for most people to do that, particularly sort of accountancy practitioners, where you've got immediate fires that need to be put out. You can quite easily block something off and go, right, it's this, it's VAT return days, I'm doing these VAT returns or whatever. But then when the client rings up with a problem or something appears when you're looking at the VAT return, you think, why have they not told me that before now? I need to get on the phone to them. And suddenly your day's gone because you've got with other bits, and it's very hard to be single-minded and focused on things.
But then I spoke to my partner about this, and he said to me, after 3 years of doing this, you should know that whenever you budget time for anything, double it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, just double it, because it's going to take you far longer than you originally thought. Because what tends to happen, I call it the can of worms, where I look at something and go, oh God, there's something else, look at that, oh God, and keep digging, and you're like, no. And suddenly an hour job is, 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah.
And you've still, as you say, you're trying to juggle the practice and everything else that goes with it. But I think that at its core, not managing that properly is why, even if you go to these conferences, or you go to like the FAB or Accountex, DAS, any of these different events, that you can't attend the event with full clarity and that attitude of, okay, I'm going to really see what these things can do and adopt them. You kind of just, I don't know, you just don't have that full, I guess, presence of mind. And I think that's half the problem sometimes.
But it's how do you actually put up those barriers properly? It's how do you, because you can't plan for everything, particularly. So when you're in practice, things are going to come up, and it's like, how do you properly kind of focus? How can you kind of shut out things that are, how can you manage your time and really get the focus down?
Yeah.
The solution, you can just try your best, can't you, and just see.
Try your best, but I think all of that is something that comes in time. So I think you learn, what your clients need and the time that's required to support them. I think you do learn that over time. But I think giving yourself that time back is almost kind of empowering, just saying, okay, you've got half an hour to look at, why did this job take longer? Is it because we need to bill more? Therefore, we can bring on more services, or is it another issue? And equally, why am I being so negative towards some? Is it, do I have an issue? Is it because I don't understand? Or is it because I need more time to get involved and invested, maybe, But yeah, going back to the original point, negativity doesn't get you anywhere.
No.
That's what I've realised.
Negativity is the enemy of productivity. It just doesn't really kind of get you anywhere.
We should make that the title of this.
Yeah, we could get some mugs printed. And like I said, I empathise. It's very hard. It's very hard to schedule your time. It's very hard to drown out negative thoughts, because they are it's easier to criticise than it is to do. So
yeah,
it's difficult, but I think everyone benefits from it if you try to be more positive about things, particularly things that are challenging, or that you don't necessarily see the point of, that you think are a bit monotonous or a bit stupid. Trying to put a positive spin on it will get you far.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and just an end note on that. I know why. Without going into it too deep, but I know why people think like that. Because of those podcasts going back. It's because of the whole going back. What's that book called now? It's going to annoy me. To do with the monkey. I can't think what it's called now, but it's essentially where your brain is trying to protect you, so it sees everything as a threat.
Yeah.
So as a result of that, you don't have the cognitive ability to say, no, actually, this is just change, and it's not going to be as drastic or impact me. It's not going to hurt me in any way. It's just change. I can't think what it is. It's like The Control and the Ape. I can't think what the book's called.
You're going to have to get a bit more, because I'm going to just be Googling monkey book after this.
Yeah, oh, what's it called now? I've read it like 3 times as well. But it's that you go back to the ages of everything around me is a threat, and I need to protect myself. So I don't want to look at change. The same normal day-to-day things are the safe point, and that's what your brain's trying to make you do. So anything new, AI or AML CPD, is like, whoa. And you've got to train your brain to be like, no, it's not this terrible thing. We need to, embrace it and think about things a different way. I can't think of what that thing's. It's so going to annoy me. I'm going to put this into the comments after this. Yeah, I cannot think. The chimp paradox. That's it. It's the chimp paradox.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Yeah, it's a really, really good book. Really good book, and it helps with really everything. So mind over matter. If you're into that sort of thing. But you can implement it every single day in every single thing that you do, business, work-wise, personal life, etc. It's really interesting. I wrote quite a few number of years ago now, but yeah, I've gone back to it like 3 times. Definitely worth reading.
Yeah, I'll have to get that one on Amazon.
Yeah. I tend to get everything on audiobook now. But yeah, can't recommend that enough. But because we've gone over time, as we always do, I'm going to end it early. Well, thank you, as always, for joining me. And yeah, leave any comments in the comment section. You can obviously find this replay on Facebook and also on YouTube. And yeah, we'll just catch you all in the group. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Take care, all.